She was winning 5 games in a row. She just recorded a historic triple-double. And nobody is talking about the basketball. One sentence from a WNBA player just split the entire league in half, and her own coach couldn't even give a straight answer about it. Welcome back to WNBA Analysis. If you think this is just another locker room story, stay with me for the next few minutes, because what's happening in Indiana right now is bigger than one team, one player, or one press conference. This is the moment the culture war officially walked through the front doors of the WNBA, and nobody in that building knows how to close them again. Before we go any further, I need to say this from the heart. This channel exists because a lot of you are tired of screaming, one-sided WNBA takes that pick a team before they even understand the story. We're trying to do something different here. Slow down, look at what was actually said, actually reported, and actually happening, and lay it out for you honestly, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. If that's the kind of channel you want to see more of in this league, hit subscribe right now before we even get into it. It costs you nothing, but it tells us, and it tells YouTube, that honest WNBA coverage still has an audience. I promise you, it means more than you think. Now let's get into what actually happened. Let's set the scene. The Indiana Fever have been on fire. 5 straight wins. A surging spot in the standings. And on top of it, superstar point guard Caitlin Clark just logged the 4th triple-double of her career. By every basketball metric, this should be the best week of the season for this franchise. Instead, almost none of the conversation is about the games at all. It's about 11 words from reserve guard Sophie Cunningham. In an ESPN profile a few weeks earlier, Cunningham was asked directly about transgender athletes competing in women's sports. Her answer didn't stay quiet for long. She told ESPN she wants to cite index equals 3-1, protect young girls in a locker room who shouldn't have to go against biological men/sites. She also pushed back on the idea that she was motivated by hate, insisting that what she actually stands for is love paired with honesty. That's it. That's the sentence that lit the fuse. Within days, rallies started forming outside Fever arenas. Supporters showed up with handmade signs. In Portland, ahead of a game against the Fire, things got tense enough that fans on opposing sides clashed outside the arena entrance. One fan told a local news crew she felt like the controversy was site index equals 5-1, ruining what should be a really fun Friday night game/site. Meanwhile, on the other side of the barricade, another supporter praised Cunningham for speaking out at a point in her career where she genuinely had something to lose. Now here's where it gets complicated for the franchise. Cunningham didn't say this on behalf of the team. Caitlin Clark didn't say it. The front office didn't put out a statement backing it. One player, in one interview, and suddenly the entire Fever brand is being dragged into a national argument it never signed up for. And that's exactly the position head coach Stephanie White got shoved into before Friday's game in Portland. Every reporter in that room wanted the same thing, for her to pick a side. Does she back her players' comments? Does she distance the organization from them? Does she talk about inclusion? Does she avoid the subject completely? White tried to walk the line. She leaned on the idea that a locker room can hold different opinions and still function as a team, that players don't have to agree on everything to compete for each other on the court. It's the kind of answer built for de-escalation. The problem is, de-escalation isn't what either side wanted to hear. People expecting a full-throated defense of Cunningham felt like their concerns got minimized. People expecting White to firmly condemn the comments felt like she dodged the moment entirely. Within hours, clips of that press conference were everywhere, sliced up, captioned, and fed straight into an algorithm that rewards outrage over nuance. Commentary channels framed it as White abandoning her own player. Others framed it as White quietly protecting a teammate from being scapegoated. Almost nobody framed it as what it probably actually was. A coach trying to hold 12 to 15 different women together in a season that's already loud enough without a culture war attached to it. Here's the part that makes this genuinely hard to untangle. The WNBA didn't ask for this fight. The league has spent decades building an identity around inclusion. But its audience has changed dramatically and fast. Driven largely by Caitlin Clark's arrival, millions of brand new fans walked through the door in the last 2 seasons. Not all of them arrived with the league's history or its values already baked in. Some of them arrived with very different opinions on this exact issue. So now you've got a locker room, a front office, and a coaching staff all standing in the middle of a debate that didn't exist inside the sport at this scale 2 years ago. And every single person involved is getting asked to have a definitive, camera-ready answer to one of the most contested questions in modern sports. Scientists disagree on parts of it. Governing bodies across different sports disagree on parts of it. Yet a 29-year-old reserve guard and her head coach are somehow expected to settle it in a 30-second soundbite between practice and tip-off. That's not a fair ask. It never was. And the uncomfortable truth is, there's no answer that ends this cleanly. If the Fever organization comes out and fully backs Cunningham, they risk a real rift with the league's long-standing LGBTQ fanbase and possibly with other teams and players around the league. If they distance themselves from her too hard, they risk alienating a big, vocal, and financially significant chunk of the new audience that showed up specifically because of moments like this. There is no version of this where everybody walks away satisfied. Somebody is going home angry no matter what gets said in that press room. What we do know is this: the basketball has been genuinely great. 5 wins in a row. A historic stat line from the best player in the sport right now. And almost none of it is trending. That, more than anything, tells you where the WNBA actually is in this moment. A league whose games are getting better and better while the noise around it grows louder than the product itself. This is not going away. Not this week, not this season. As long as the WNBA keeps growing, keeps pulling in fans from every corner of the political and cultural spectrum, moments like this one are going to keep landing on the shoulders of players and coaches who never asked to be the ones carrying them. Let's actually talk about Sophie Cunningham for a second, because she's the one person in this entire story who doesn't get to hide behind a podium or a prepared statement. She's 29. She's been in this league for years, grinding through seasons most casual fans never watched. And now, overnight, she's become one of the most talked about names in the sport, not for a buzzer beater, not for a defensive stop, but for one answer in one interview. Whatever you think about what she said, put yourself in her shoes for a second. She goes to shoot around, she goes to practice, and then she walks past a crowd of strangers holding signs with her jersey number on them, some cheering her name, some furious at her, every single night on the road. That's not normal for a role player on a team that isn't even about her. That's the kind of pressure superstars sometimes deal with, and she didn't sign up to be the story. And here's the thing nobody's really talking about. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Cunningham didn't wake up one day and decide to make a political statement out of nowhere. She was asked a direct question by a reporter, and she answered honestly. You can agree or disagree with the answer itself, but the idea that she orchestrated some kind of campaign is giving her, and the reporter who asked the question, way too much credit for how these moments actually spiral. Now let's go back to Stephanie White for a moment, because her situation deserves more than a 15-second clip treatment. She's not just managing a roster. She's managing a business, a locker room culture, a national media cycle, and, whether she wanted it or not, the emotional temperature of 2 very different fan bases who now show up to the same arena. Think about the actual mechanics of her job that week. She has to prep her team for a divisional opponent. She has to manage minutes, matchups, film sessions. She has to make sure Cunningham still feels like a valued piece of the rotation and not a pariah in her own locker room. And on top of all of that, she has to walk into a media room knowing that literally any sentence she says is going to be clipped, captioned, and turned into ammunition by people who've already decided what they want her to say before she says it. There is no coaching manual for this. Nobody drew this up in a film session. And yet the expectation from the outside is that she should be able to deliver a flawless, fully satisfying answer on a subject that actual scientists, actual sports federations, and actual lawmakers haven't been able to agree on. That's not coaching criticism anymore. That's an impossible standard being applied to someone whose actual job is X's and O's. Here's the bigger picture, and it's the part that actually matters long-term. The WNBA is in the middle of the biggest growth spurt in its history. Attendance is up. Merchandise sales are up. TV ratings are up. A huge chunk of that growth is tied directly to Caitlin Clark and the wave of new fans she brought with her. Fans who, in a lot of cases, are brand new to women's basketball entirely. That's an incredible opportunity for the league. But it also means the WNBA's audience today looks nothing like its audience 5 years ago. It's more mainstream, more politically mixed, more emotionally invested in players as personalities rather than just as athletes. And when that happens fast, the culture of a league can outrun its ability to manage the conversation around it. This isn't the first time a growing sports league has hit this wall, and it won't be the last. But it is genuinely rare to watch it happen in real time, one press conference at a time, with a single team absorbing almost all of the pressure because of how fast their spotlight grew. The Fever aren't just a basketball team playing meaningful games in a playoff race anymore. They've become the pressure point for a conversation the entire league is going to have to figure out how to handle sooner or later. And that's really the story here. Not one player's opinion. Not one coach's press conference answer. It's a league growing faster than its infrastructure for handling hard conversations, and everybody involved, Players, coaches, front offices, fans on both sides, trying to figure out the rules in real time, with the whole internet watching and judging every single move. So no, this story isn't really about who's right and who's wrong on one specific issue. It's about what happens when a league grows up faster than anyone expected, and the people wearing the jersey get handed conversations way bigger than basketball. Sophie Cunningham didn't ask for this. Stephanie White didn't ask for this. But here we are, and how the WNBA handles moments like this one is going to shape what this league looks like for the next decade, not just this season. Before you go, I mean this. If this kind of breakdown is what you actually want from WNBA coverage, calm, fair, and focused on the real story instead of who can yell the loudest, then subscribing genuinely helps more than you know. This channel only grows because people like you decide it's worth sticking around for. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's keep doing this together, one honest conversation at a time. From all of us at WNBA Analysis, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.